edition. George Whitfield rolling with two of my favorites. Let's go first with Michael Felder, new resident in North Carolina, right, Mike?
It's like I'm back again for the first time. I was born here. I grew up here. I'm back here again, so I'm excited. Listen, guys, we're going to fill out this office soon. It'll look like George and it'll look like Coach Sumlin soon. Once I get my jersey and I get my, once I get my swag on, I might have it back. But right now, I'm still waiting on my stuff. They'll be here tomorrow to deliver.
So look for that from Michael Felder as he's getting the new dig set. And one of my favorite coaches' favorite people in this sport. And he and I, we have already just come to terms. We have a special 10-part docuseries coming out in a year. The life and times of living alongside Johnny Manziel. Coach Sumlin, how we doing, sir?
We're doing great, George. I don't know if 10-part is enough. It's probably like a trilogy, right?
Season one, yeah.
3 seasons. But even though he was on there too. But no, man, I'm happy to be here, happy to talk to you, and let's get to some ball tonight.
100%. I have so much respect. I just want to say to you, I have so much respect for you because I understood a lot of the context to the winning. I understood a lot of the context of how you were overcoming things, stuff you were dealing with that other coaches weren't. And then just the consistency of it. That's going all the way back to your Purdue days, et cetera. So I can't wait for you to be back in the game, but I'm honored to be on here with you tonight. Fellas, the marching orders, Big 12. Field of 12 Wednesday night. We're talking Big 12 tonight, powered by BetRivers. George Whitfield, Michael Felder, and Coach Sumlin. Find us on XM app. You can find us on the XM app. Fellas, let's go into it. First, I want to get you guys' thoughts. Mike, I'll start with you first. Red River from this past weekend. It did not go. Anybody outside of Austin didn't. I don't even think people in Austin saw it going like that. Felder, what was your initial thoughts on watching how that played out?
I mean, listen, sometimes you go out there and you get ragdolled, and that's what happened. And listen, I guess, honestly, I'm going to go toast for the night. I'm going to toast to Sark. Sark's the guy that we've questioned a lot of times, and we've questioned what he was, but I'm going to toast to him tonight because his team went out there and got the job done. So I'm going to do that one. But at the end of the day, the big thing for me was to not be able to do anything on either side of the ball is very frustrating. And to be able to be stymied at that level to that degree is frustrating. And it's one of those things where you got to go back and honestly, and Coach Sumlin, you hop in here, but that's one of those games where I don't think we need to watch this film anymore. I think we need to bury it, throw something on top of it, and we got to figure out something else.
Coach, in answering that, Coach, how do you put a tourniquet on it?
Well,
yes, your quarterback's out. I mean, the wheels are starting to come off a little bit. How do you tie it off?
Well, the problem is it would be easy, Mike, if that was just an anomaly, right? They've given up over 500 yards at Oklahoma, 500 and some yards the last 3 weeks in a row. Yep. It's hard to beat anybody, right? We talked about Big 12 or whatever, 600 1 week against 600. TCU could have got 700, right? Yeah. So, and let's be honest, Texas pulled the dogs off at the end too. Right?
They could have scored 70 points if they wanted.
That's what I mean. And so, yeah, to say in certain instances like that, let's not watch the film. Let's move on to next week. There's an issue defensively, right? It's Martinez went off. Well, that was an anomaly, we thought, right? And then the next week, TCU did whatever they wanted, right? And they pulled the dogs off. Then last week, so you got to watch this tape. And you got to figure out there's bigger issues than just one situation here. And so I don't know. Offensively they struggled obviously without their starting quarterback. But if they can't keep people from under 550 yards a week, I don't know who they're going to beat. And I'm being honest here. I mean, it's just when that schedule comes out and their next three opponents, it used to be a breather. And as I said a week ago, if you remember, Mike, No one cares about the OU on the helmet right now.
No.
And they're all in line because Oklahoma's been running it up on people since Barry Switzer, half 100, right? So people are in line now to take their shot. And until they get that defense fixed, there's not going to be, I don't see them being able to win. They're going to have a hard time getting to 6 or 7 right now.
Coach, next 3 weeks, Kansas,
Yep.
Iowa State, Baylor.
Right.
Can they get through those 3? What's it realistically look like? Not that you up here trying to place bets. Kansas, just to put it in context, Kansas went toe-to-toe with the same TCU team that throttled them.
Exactly.
With a backup quarterback for 3 quarters, and it still came down to the last play of the game. That's next. Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor.
Yep.
What's it look like?
As I said a week ago, there will be even or underdogs for the rest of the year, Oklahoma.
Wow.
So, I mean, think about that.
You would never see that.
But that's the truth, right? And in my mind, because, if Kansas has their starting quarterback, it's a completely different situation.
Right.
So, they're reeling right now. They've got to find themselves. There's, who knows what the locker room's like. It's a tenuous situation. And Kansas is still, they're coming off. They're still playing with confidence. That game I saw, Oklahoma has 0 confidence on either side of the ball. And for that game to be a shutout, since 1965? Since 1965, right? Wow. That's a statement win for Sark, and to me, those are 2 places right now going in the opposite direction.
The Oklahoma Sooners get rocked at Red River 49-0. Texas Longhorns. Does this have much effect for Texas going forward, Felder? Can they bottle this up, or was this a good performance? You know how they get up and then they seem to wobble in the wrong bar the next weekend and get knocked out. Can they sustain off of this?
I don't know. The rest of the Big 12 is in Oklahoma.
Right.
And so Iowa State, they're going to make you fist fight every day. It's going to be a rock fight. You know what I mean? You're going to have to get in there, and y'all got to sling it. And Oklahoma State's the same way, and Kansas State's going to be the same way. And Kansas and TCU, they still got to play all these teams that are better than Oklahoma. So I don't know. I think what you take away from this is we beat Ohio, which is great.
Right.
But we still got to come correct the rest of the season. And that's not going to be easy. And as teams, and Coach Sumlin, you mentioned this, right? That they smell that blood in the water. Everybody wants to take their pound of flesh from Oklahoma. Why not take it from Texas too? Let's go ahead and get it.
And KU did last year. Coach Sumlin, before we roll out of this chapter, you've been dealing with and dancing with athletic directors since you've been in the business. Joe Castiglione. What is his mindset right now? What is he thinking? He's got different type of pressures in this last year and a half with the portal. Your boat can take on water a lot faster. You could reinvent yourself fast too, but you can also sink faster. Recruiting, and then unique to them, just like you did with A&M, you're right on the verge of joining Jurassic Park, going into the SEC. It's a whole different animal. He's got all these things looking at him, and one of the best defensive coordinators in America has the worst defense on the field in America. What are the pressures of this going to push him to do anything, any type of shift change? No. Or what's he thinking right now halfway in the season? And he knows what it is.
Everybody is concerned, right? But it's a first-year head coach. They made a decision because he's the best man for the job, right? He knows the place. And Joe Castiglione, like you said, is maybe the best in the business, right? As an athletic director. Everything he does is calculated. Right now, where they are right now, you can't even be looking at the SEC. Okay, so right now, I mean, as an administrator, that's your job. coaching is different. And just like Mike brought up, Texas is about to play better teams in Oklahoma. They've got their issues. Right. And Oklahoma's every week's going to be a dogfight. And they got to figure out who they are, where their quarterback situation is. Their recruiting class is looking really good right now. I mean, they're recruiting at a high level, but they're going to have to. They're going to have to keep doing that. Right now, they've got to find out who they are, right? Are they Oklahoma that can score 50? They're not that. Are they Oklahoma that can hold you to 9 points? They're not that. They've got to figure out who they are, what their identity is. And in situations like this, it's not about, who's coming up or what the opponent is or where we're going. You got to figure out who you are, right? Yeah, and then recruit to that, because right now, the identity of Oklahoma is not, they're what are they hanging their hat on? And so that's the first thing they have to fix. And then the next things, then you'll worry about your opponent later on.
Last with this, and this goes off of last week on our show, you were there. Why didn't A&M and Texas play through your tenure and since? And you both got 4 or 5 non-league games in September. Was there ever a discussion? Was it just understood we ain't going across that bridge anymore? What was the nature of that?
There's a lot of politics involved in that, right? When you leave a conference, people weren't happy, right? But there was also the other part of how Texas one-upped everybody in the Big 12, right? With
Longhorn Network,
the Longhorn Network, and establishing the money situation. And so there was some as they say, above my pay grade things were happening that people got really upset at each other. I mean, and when you go to the SEC and you win games that first year, there are a lot of people in that are above my pay grade that said, why do we need to play Texas? We're in the SEC now, right? We don't need that. That's where we are. We've moved on. They moved on. We've moved on. And so because of that, that was not an issue. Now, coming back, 10 years later or 15 years later, they're going to be on the schedule. So, things happen over time. But at that time, I think both parties had basically said, you know what? We don't want to play you. You don't want to play us. And then when other teams had whatever your team is, forget about it. We're in 2 different leagues. We're going in separate directions. But as fate would have it, here they come back together again.
Man, I just look at it. Can you imagine those 2 meeting in Reliant Stadium or Cowboys, or having a home and home like they used to? Red River Rivalry, Texas 49, Oklahoma 0, Field of 12 on a Wednesday. Michael Felder, Coach Kevin Sumlin, George Whitfield here. We're going to move now into the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma State. This might be the quietest top 10 team out there. They take on probably one of the hottest teams in America. And these guys have been dealing. They welcome TCU, or no, they go on the road to Fort Worth to go play TCU. Michael Felder, we need an undefeated Big 12 champ. That's just the quiet understanding. Right. The only real way the Big 12 will secure a spot in this dance, the dance changes. The dance will change, but they need an undefeated. Oklahoma State going into TCU. How do you see that playing out? Do they have the type of firepower to get out of this thing? Because TCU's been playing they've been ambushing people.
Yeah, gangbusters. And so here's the thing. I think we watched a transition over the last 3 seasons with Oklahoma State where it was this Tylan Wallace and Chuba Hubbard team. Then it was a team led by that defense, headlined by defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. And then you lose Malcolm Rodriguez to the next level. Knowles, you lose him to Ohio State. And now it's finally, even though he's been the starter each one of those seasons, Spencer Sanders, this is finally his team. He's in charge now. He knows what he's supposed to be doing, and he's making things work. And I think that's, if you're going to hang your hat on anything, I think you hang your hat on Spencer Sanders for this Oklahoma State team. But at the same time, we've watched Max Duggan. We've watched him for 4 years. 4 years, right? Like we've watched him and been like, oh, he didn't get. He didn't get there. He didn't quite get there. And this year he's getting there, and it obviously it helps. They got that. What's the big boy, Quentin Johnston?
Yeah.
Good Lord, what a nightmare! Can you imagine covering this dude?
He's a monster. Coach Sumlin, just going right off of what Felder just said, what does America not understand or appreciate about Mike Gundy, his sustainability, and Oklahoma State? It's always a surprise that they keep popping up here in the top 10, top 8, year in, year out with that type of staying power. What do we not appreciate or understand about that program?
I think, because of where they are, with Oklahoma, the powerhouse that Oklahoma has been, right? Mm-hmm. And the national brand that it's been. I think Oklahoma State has been in that shadow from a national scene. In the Big 12, that's not the case, right? If you're coaching the Big 12, that they're coming to play. Mike Gundy, in the first week, I gave him the toast of the week. 15 years, he's seen it. He played there. He understands what that place needs to win. He's built that place from that stadium. Now it's a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
And they're recruiting at a high level. They've got a lot of guys in the NFL.
Can I ask you something, Coach?
Yes, you bet.
How do they let folks with those paddles into the stadium?
The same way they let people in with cowbells.
Yep.
Yeah, but the cowbell's not going to hurt you. That paddle can't hurt you.
Well, it won't hurt you, but I've had one thrown at me from the upper deck. And it wouldn't. So don't worry about that. Yeah, I'd rather get hit with a paddle than a cowbell, because those things are about that big. But back to Oklahoma State. I'm with you. And Max Duggan, I mean, but he's what is he, 26 now? He's been
something
playing
like that,
forever, right?
Something like
so
that.
What you're seeing this year is a couple 3 quarterbacks, and you can name them all, that are in they're even UCLA. We've been waiting.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And then now he's playing, right? And he's making the right decisions. He's not just running around. So guys that have played that much football, you can see it. It'll be interesting to me. And I thought, when you lose Jim Knowles, everybody says, "Well, what are you going to do?" I think Derek Mason is is a great coach.
Yep.
I go back to last year, and everybody's talking about, well, what happened at Auburn? You turn that game on at the halftime. What was it, 6-6 or 3-3, something like that,
with
against
Bama,
Alabama, right?
Yeah.
So he leaves there and he's there. It will be a real chess match this week. We'll figure out, where TCU is, because they've been going up down the field on everybody. But I think Derek Mason will have some answers, and he's going to have them, because, like you said, TCU is playing lights out, and they're going to have to get some stops. Going to have to get some turnovers. But I really do. I like Oklahoma State in this game for the first time, because I've liked TCU every week.
Let's just spin this forward to both of you quickly. An undefeated Oklahoma State team, how would they fare versus the top 5 in neutral sites? Do they have that type of mettle? Could they really come out of their front door and come see a Clemson, the 2 Big Ten bad boys, or the 2 SEC bad boys? Could they really come see those guys, or are they kind of the best of the rest? Felder, I'll start with you quick and then go to Coach.
I think that I still think we have Georgia and Alabama at the top. I don't think there's 2 Big Ten bad boys. I think there's Ohio State.
Oh, there's a spot. They call it the team up north of Ohio State. There's another monster up there. They play this weekend.
I don't think they're a monster. That's the point that I'm making, is I don't think they're a monster.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's the exact thing that I'm saying, is I don't know if Michigan is any good. And I also don't know if Penn State is any good. Penn State and Michigan are 2 teams I still have question marks next to in my notes.
Yeah.
Because I'm still not sure what I'm going to get from them on a week to week. I know what I'm going to get from Blake Corum. But if you take away Blake Corum, now what am I going to get from this football team?
But could Oklahoma State go play Michigan in a neutral site game?
Yes.
Could they see Ohio State?
Ohio State, no.
Clemson.
Alabama, probably no.
Clemson.
Georgia, probably no. Clemson, yes.
Coach, what do you think on that?
My feeling is in a one-off scenario, right?
Yep.
One-off game.
One-off.
Anything's these guys got speed, right? They can play some defense. They're better than people think in a one-off scenario, right? So I think, as I've said for the last 2 weeks, by the eye test, right now to me, which is a whole different deal, by the eye test, Ohio State's the best team in the country.
Agreed.
And then by the eye test, I have a hard time saying Tennessee's not the second best team in the country. The way George is playing, the way Alabama played last week, the way Tennessee's playing, Tennessee's dangerous. That's a whole other quarterback is right now playing the best out of anybody. So, that'll be interesting this week. That's a whole nother conversation. But in a one-off situation with Oklahoma State, because I think their guys are used to being
underdogs.
And even worse, they're being used to being disrespected, right?
Yeah.
They'll come out with some kind of crazy, cool ass looking uniform, right?
Yes.
It could be gray, it could be orange, it could be
black.
It could be something, but it'll be really good looking, and they'll have energy. And I mean, we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yep.
But I think they roll that ball out, and Mike Gunning will have them ready to play against anybody in the country.
After they get ready to play TCU, their next couple opponents, they welcome Texas at home. And then they go into they go into Manhattan, Kansas. They got Kansas State. Big 12 is about to get real interesting. Let's stay in the state. The Sooners limp into Lawrence, Kansas to play the Jayhawks this weekend. A Jayhawk team that just put their megawatt engine on the sideline with the separated shoulder in coach quarterback Jalen Daniels. But the backup had 7-8 starts last year as well. Coach Leipold will have these guys ready. How big of a matchup is this, and which way will it lean? Felder, I'll go with you, then Coach.
Well, here's the thing. I was hoping you'd go to Coach first, because the biggest thing for me, and this has to do with Bryce Young. Obviously, it has to do with Jalen Daniels, but they're playing in Norman, which is going to be that's good for Oklahoma. Obviously, they got to feel a little better about that. But I wanted to ask Coach,
is it good for Oklahoma?
That's the other part, because we've already seen Oklahoma fans act bad. What was it, 2 years ago with Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, so, they do not suffer losing. But go ahead, Felder.
What I was going to ask, I want to ask you, Coach Sumlin, when you're dealing with an injury like this, one that it's almost essentially pain management, right?
Right.
Inflammation, pain management. How do you deal with that with a quarterback that you're going to kind of need? And so Kansas has a luxury. Bean is a good quarterback. But how do you deal with that as a coach when do I push him? Do I sit back on him? How do you deal with that as a coach?
Well, there's, you've got the games you have to play. How good is your backup, right? And if we, with that pain management, if he goes out there and he hurts it worse, is he done for the year?
Bingo.
Right? Can he play? I think that's what you've seen basically with Alabama, right? So if he's 80%, is he better than the guy behind him? Can he handle it? You owe it to the player. Hey, look, we've got a bunch of games. We've got this game. We get through this game in 2 weeks, depending on what the shoulder is the AC sprain, separations, like whatever that is. A week makes a huge difference for a guy. Because you're not going to play a game in college football and not get hit, right, at quarterback. So, and the NFL is trying to get to that, but that's a whole other that's a whole other topic. But you've got to deal with that, and then have him ready to go. But I think that's what you're seeing at Alabama, right? You've got the rest of the season, and Kansas has put themselves in a position to be, to have one of the greatest seasons they've ever had.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no doubt that he is, he runs it and he's a difference maker. So, that's one thing. The other thing you brought up, sometimes, most of the time, but most of the time after a situation last week, sometimes you're better off playing on the road, right?
Yeah,
because
right.
if things don't go right early, fans are fans now, and murmurs turn to other things, right? It'll be real interesting. Yeah, you're at home, you got friendly confines and everything else, but man, you better get something going early. And if things go the Jayhawks' way early in that game, it could get ugly.
And understand this, Kansas knows that.
Yes,
They know that.
They're going to hop on them early.
They're going to try and hop on him early. I see a lot of pressures. I see him trying to do a couple of things in special teams. They may not even need all that exotic stuff. Just go out here and line up and go get these boys. I feel like it being in Norman is pressure on Oklahoma. Can you imagine 4 straight?
Yeah.
Normally seeing Kansas as a welcome sight. Now these guys are coming in here. They went a clean 12 rounds with the team that knocked us out, and they didn't even have their strong hand in the fight. Oh man. Oklahoma welcomes Kansas. They really need to welcome a win this weekend. It's going to get tight. So, Coach, before we leave the Sooners, Michael, is there no scenario that Coach Venables is good? He's secure this year. Is there no amount of damage that he can withstand that Joe Castiglione would say, I'm good to go? Too many good coaches out there. I'm good to go. I cannot do this to our brand.
The scary part is the answer is no. That's the scary part, because I think he should be safe. He should be fine. He should have his time. He should have the opportunity to grow as a coach. This is his first time ever doing it. It's first time ever doing it. And he said that at media days. It's like drinking from a fire hose. All the stuff you have to do as a head coach that he didn't realize you had to do as a coordinator. And he should be fine. But we're also about to see a team get this massive influx of money going to the SEC where money doesn't matter.
Correct.
And which dials us all the way back into it. I'm sure I know you know this, Coach Sumlin. I know you know this, but these string pullers, right? These these puppet masters that are
marionettes.
The boosters that have like, well, hey man, this is what I want, and I want this, and so I don't know how. I mean, he should be safe, but if somebody comes behind and is like, hey, well, and I'm like, no, leave him alone. Let him. He's got to figure it out. It's going to take some time to figure it out. And listen, I say this is someone. I went to UNC.
Coach,
have this. Hang on. We have this legendary story about Dean Smith, where people wanted to fire Dean Smith after his first couple seasons. They hung him in effigy outside of the stadium. And now, do you know what that arena is called? The Dean Smith is the Dean Smith Center, baby. Because he figured it out. The Dean Dome. They figured it out. The Dean E. Smith Center. They figured it out because he figured it out.
Will there be a Brent Venables Stadium in Oklahoma, Coach, or will there be a new Oklahoma?
I'm not going to go that far, right? You got a whole bunch of really good coaches there, right? The guy before him, Barry Switzer. Sure. There's plenty of.
There's a few.
Yeah, there's a few, right? That's why there's so many national championships and conference championships. I disagree, Mike. I don't think there's a bunch of string pullers. I think Joe Castiglione runs that thing. Has run it. And I think there's been consistency there, obviously, with Bob, since 1999. It's the first coaching change since then, right?
Yeah.
So, and guys have come and gone. I think he's going to get time to figure it out. That's why they made the decision. That's why he made the decision. And I think he's fine, but he's going to have to,
He's got to figure it out.
he's got to figure it out. And they have the resources, they have the history, and they have the means and to turn that thing pretty quickly.
But will they have the patience to accept a sub 500 or 500 ending to this season?
This year, yes.
Oh, there you go.
That's the key. I think that's the biggest key.
That's
That's the key.
I said this year.
This year.
Not next year. This year.
That's the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma State and TCU will lock horns, and the Sooners welcome a Jayhawk team that's red hot. Last spot here in the Big 12, Iowa State at Texas. Now, this is what I was talking about. I think it was pre-show. The Longhorns get up for certain things. They either get it or get close. And then the next week, they're not sober from the last outing. Is this one of those situations, Coach? They had that. I don't even know how long the parties went down there in Red River. Will they be able to sober themselves, steady themselves, and get back on the ground ready for an Iowa State team that's quite frankly hungry because they've been in some real fistfights?
Well, just think about this. I don't know right off the top of my head, but I know, just thinking, Iowa State's won this game how many times in the last 5 years?
I'll look it up.
I mean, it's either been close or it's been right there. And I don't think, just like Kansas, I don't think right now those guys, Kansas and Iowa State, are intimidated by Texas like they used to be, or
right,
like the teams of the past. And so the hungry Iowa State team I see Iowa State and Kansas in the same boat right now, right? They've had a couple losses, a couple close losses. Heck, you can argue they should have beat Kansas, but they missed 4 field goals, 3 field goals against Kansas to lose the game, right?
Right.
So they're a good football team, and they come in there. I would be shocked if it's not a really, really close game.
30-7, Iowa State won this last year. 30-7 wasn't even close. That was a knockout. Texas does lead the series. But
I'm
Iowa
talking about
State,
recently, right?
Iowa State's won 3 of the last 4.
That's my point, right? So they have confidence, right?
Correct.
And Texas is, and to your point though, George, it's going to be pretty easy to get your players' attention since you got basically your ass kicked by them last year, 30-7, right?
Right. Okay.
So
okay.
You celebrate, and it's just not the Iowa State of all. They've whooped them last year, and they've won, like you said. How many, Michael?
3 of the last 4.
That's right. So if you can't get, all those guys have been there to see this, right? Guys that are playing, right? Except for yours. So that's a good thing, but you can watch the tape, right? And
he'll get the picture.
That's probably why he's there now, right? So
thoughts on the game?
Hard.
Thoughts on the game? Cyclones or Horns? Coach, who you got?
I like Texas right now. I think they're playing well.
I like Iowa State. I think that they've got a way of, and I understand that. What is Iowa State is? They're 3-3, right?
Yeah.
They have this way of massaging a football game. I know they've lost 3 in a row, and they need to win. And we can talk all that talk we want about Texas coming off of the Red River Rivalry game and trying to get back into this game and the whole deal. Iowa State needs to win in a big way. Matt Campbell needs to win in a big way. They need a win. And this win means more probably for them than it does for Texas, because they've got to win a football game because they're 3-3. You start out 3-0, and then you lose 3. And you listen, the 3 losses they have, I'm look at the numbers. 1 score to Baylor, right? Touchdown to Baylor. 31-24 to Baylor. 14-11 to Kansas.
Yep.
10-9. 10-9 to Kansas State.
Right.
Yep.
They're going to slow this game down. They're going to make you play at their level. That's the thing that they do that I really appreciate. They make you play at their level. They make you play at their pace.
Or their style. Yeah.
And style, sure. We can call it style. We can call it pace. But the reality of it is this is a team that's like, hey man, we're gonna make you like if this. You know what this is like? I got a 4-year-old. This is like when I pull her pants down a little bit and she tries to run around with her pants around her knees. She can't move as fast, and that's what Iowa State tries to do all the time. They just want you can't move as fast. It's like playing in quicksand. That's what they try to do, and I love it.
So don't try to run around Michael Felder without your pants at full set. Felder's taking the Cyclones. Coach is taking Texas.
Yeah.
I'm also taking the Cyclones. I think Iowa State comes in here just more desperate. But it would be great to see Coach Sark keep doing this thing down here at Texas. All right, we got the big
hang on.
wrap.
George, I want to ask you, how do you feel about Ewers? You're the QB guru here.
Just like you said, you didn't think you knew Michigan and Penn State, and I've been around Quinn a lot, love him as a kid. I don't know that he wears a cape. I think he's a good player. I thought he had a good, 2 series against Alabama, and that kind of added on to the lore.
Sure.
But I would like to see him go, start to finish against an opposite equal, be in some obvious passing situations like we see at Iowa State. I just don't think Max Preps in one of those high school ratings said he is the second highest rated quarterback coming out of high school since Vince Young. And I almost passed out. It's like, here we go. Is it
behind
Texas?
Who, like Trevor Lawrence?
No, it was Vince Young. And then they had Ewers, then skipped some spots down to Trevor Lawrence. And I thought, wait. I think he's a good player. I think it's expectations that kills a lot of these kids.
Sure.
It's the expectation. They don't rate themselves. But I just think right now, Texas has a really good player. And I think it's in his best interest to keep playing well. And then you'll have the most famous backup in college football history standing on the sideline with you next year. But I do cheer for him. But do I think he's like some kind of a mythical guy? No, I think he's a good player. He's got a great coach who's great with quarterbacks. But I just hope he can kind of, keep in his own little style. He's got his little mullet and got everything going. But I think he's he's a very good quarterback. I don't even know if he's the best quarterback in the conference. Just on that. Hey, before we forget, West Virginia. Coach, thoughts on West Virginia? They got a big one this weekend. There is some real pressure starting to mount up there with the Mountaineers. That they're accustomed to winning. They play spoiler a lot in the back half of seasons. Big offensive outage. Thoughts there at WVU?
It's a tough place, right? It's the expectations are high, and it's one of those things where but I've never understood why, right? I really haven't. I mean, I get it, right? And I'll just put it this way, one of my friends, right? Dana Holmes, coach there. And he's explained it to me. It's just a different place. The whole burning couches deal, that's a real thing there.
That's
right?
a real thing.
Right. And so the expectations are through the roof. But I've never understood why.
Where it comes from.
And where it comes from. But where they are right now, and I just had a chance to catch them on television a couple times. They're struggling. I mean, they're really struggling, and I don't know what their schedule looks like, but those fans there, as I said, for whatever reason, they're not very patient at all.
No, they're not patient at all. Will that administration be patient? West Virginia. Felder, we're going to jump now into the surprises for the season. The surprises again, field of 12 on a Wednesday night. George Whitfield roll with Michael Felder and Coach Kevin Sumlin. Good to be with you. You can find us on XM app, powered by BetRivers. Fellas, the 3 surprise teams outside of the basketball schools, because the basketball schools have just been, they've taken over this thing in front half the season. The Fighting Dino Babers in Syracuse.
Wait, is Syracuse not a basketball school?
Have they made noise in basketball? Now I'm outside of my own lane. Now I haven't seen them do much in basketball.
You don't know that Syracuse is a basketball. Have you heard of Carmelo Anthony?
I'm talking recent. Don't tell me about the old Carmelo days. That's 30 years
Jim
back.
Boeheim is a legend.
No doubt.
A legend.
Syracuse 5-0. This week,
Yeah,
they welcome NC State, who's going to be really salty after coming off that loss there with Clemson. And then the following week, they're at Clemson, the only resident monster in the ACC. Fellas, quick thoughts on Syracuse, Felder?
Babers needed this. He's needed this season in a big way. Schrader, obviously, the transfer from Mississippi State has been huge for them.
Great pickup.
Great pickup for them. And it's been interesting because we're going to talk about two schools that. So we're talking about Schrader going from Mississippi State to Syracuse. Mississippi State could have been on this list as well, by the way.
Yeah.
And Tommy DeVito going from Syracuse
to Illinois.
Illinois.
Yep. He stays wearing orange, don't he?
Yeah. Listen, this guy is Wiz Khalifa is what, black and yellow? This guy's blue and orange, blue and orange. But Coach, the fact that they beat Purdue stands out more and more to me because Purdue keeps getting better and better. I didn't think Purdue was going to beat Maryland. And the fact that Syracuse was able to hold on against Purdue stood out a lot to me. They've got some good players on this football team, and this is the season that Dino Babers needed to have. Go ahead.
Coach, again, just give us context now. You're among them. That's a colleague. You've coached with them, coached against them, problem solved with them, recruited against them. What does America really need to know about Dino Babers? And again, this is a lot of staying power up there in Syracuse. He's got to be there better half of a decade now.
He's been there a while. And, Dino has come up the old-fashioned way, as an assistant coach. And, he was an old name that nobody, Homer Rice. I mean, he was way back, right, in the West Coast. And then, being an assistant coach, I worked with him at Texas A&M with RC. And then, he's come through that, the Bowling Greens and the hard way. So, I'm happy for him. I think, as you said, what I'm hearing, we've heard the last 3 weeks, and George, this, he's got a trigger guy, right?
Yep.
And all these teams that we're talking about, that's been the consistent theme. Whether these guys leave one place, go to another place where they're successful. If they're not successful here, that doesn't mean they can't play.
Correct.
And the transfer portal has provided a mechanism for these guys to find a home and play immediately and have an immediate impact on these programs. Just like you said, Illinois, Syracuse, all these teams have got guys that have come, even, that have come in and put these teams on the map and kind of put them on their back. I've never heard that term. Does he wear a cape? Well, we're going to find out here in the next couple of weeks, right? With who they're playing, because he's going to have to make some plays to win these next two games.
Speaking of great coaching and great turnarounds, Brett Bielema, another lifer, and one coming out of college. I was a grad assistant at Iowa, and Brett Bielema was a linebackers coach there. And, coincidentally, the only two unmarried guys on that staff. So obviously, I could spend a lot of time with him. He taught me a lot off campus. I just kind of followed his lead. He was coaching me back then. But Brett Bielema gets to Illinois. This is not year 3. This ain't year 2. They just cut the ribbon this past winter. Now they're up. They are 5-1, number 1 defense. And they have a shot here in the Big Ten West to win this thing with some resident giants who are out here wobbling around. Felder, can Illinois do it? Right? This will probably be one of the last season or two that the Big Ten has this East-West deal, because really that league should be playing. They shouldn't have a division. But can they do it? Can they go win the West?
Yeah, why not? If not now, then when? You know what I'm saying?
Insight like that you can't beat. That's Michael Felder. You can find him on Michael Felder.
I think he's using that speech this week.
But here's the point. Like, listen, we saw Minnesota crap their pants, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We saw them do that. We saw Wisconsin just look god awful. So if you can't win it now, if you can't do it when you have Chase Brown, you can't do it right now, then when are you going to do it?
Right.
If you can't do it right now, then when will you do it? This is a team that they do a lot of things that I find to be some combination. I don't know if special's the right word or unique's the right word, but the way that they crowd the line of scrimmage, they dare you to go over the top, and that's defensively. And then offensively, they're like, hey, you know what? Guys, we're packing it in, and you come and stop us.
Right.
Which goes back to Wisconsin, right? When he was there. It's this idea of you come and stop us. We're showing you what we're going to do. You know we're going to run here. We don't run to the weak side. We run to the strength. We run strength.
Speaking of that strength, Coach, just like Coach Babers, Brett Bielema has put his identity into this program.
Yeah.
It's a ball coach now. Arkansas, they're winning games. Wisconsin, they were really the landlord in the West when he was there.
Yeah.
Speak to it on just Brett Bielema, what you're seeing from his implementation of the program, his grip on it, and can they push this to Indianapolis against one of those heavyweights in December?
Yes, no doubt. Brett's always been, even that we've known each other a long time. And at Arkansas, it was a team, probably the greatest compliment I can give a coach is you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves.
Thank you.
No,
explain that to people though.
Explain that. And you know what you're going to get, right? You gotta, he's going to hold on to the ball. He's going to run it. And they're going to trade tight ends. They're going to do it. And then all of a sudden there's going to be a play action pass and somebody's going to be wide ass open, right? Yep. And because you got to commit 8-9 guys to the run, maybe 10, right? Because he'll just keep running it. And then somebody will get loose. He's always going to have a kicker. They'll be solid on special teams. He might want a fake or two. He's always got that up his sleeve, right? So, and defensively, they're going to be sound, right? It's going to be some sort of quarters, right? You got to get some way to get safeties, get them down in there and get over the top. But you know what you're going to get, but they're not going to screw it up, right? And to his credit, and what I see right now, this is not a knock on the West, but at Arkansas, in the SEC West, he didn't have the same kind of players that LSU or Alabama or Auburn or even
Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss,
A&M.
Mississippi State. He didn't have those guys, but he still won games. He won a lot of games and beat people, right? So I see right now, in from what I've seen Purdue play live a couple times, right? And Purdue should have beaten Penn State, right? The first game of the year. They had game one. But as usual, that part, so they said, well, here it is. I've seen Purdue get better and better and better this week. I was like with you. I didn't think there was any way they were going to beat Maryland, right?
Right.
And they come out of that. What I see coming up is what's going to happen in the West. You're going to have to beat Illinois to get out of the West. They got every reason to be feeling good about them because they've stopped. What they give up last week? 6 or 9? What? How many points?
9, I think.
It wasn't even double digit.
They gave up 6.
6. Right?
They won with 9. They gave up 6.
They won with 9, right?
How about that?
Ugly football, but that's what they're going to do, right? So you're going to have to beat them. They're not going to turn it over. They're not going to have 10 penalties. That's not going to happen, right? So you're going to have to play. I'm not saying perfect football, but you cannot give the ball away. You can't give possessions away, and you can't have foolish penalties. Otherwise, they'll take advantage of it and kick field goals all game. You'll look up, and it'll be 17-3. And now you got to come back in a situation where he's already run the clock down to 5 minutes to go in the game.
Well, to get your Big Ten Illinois championship tickets, go to Coach Kevin Sumlin. He will have those for you. He's got some incredible
I didn't
packages.
Say that now.
Let's cut now to the third surprise of the season. James Madison, first school in Division I history in their inaugural year to win their first 5 games. We have a real special interview right now with their quarterback, Todd Centeio. We're going to cut to that interview now.
We are pleased to be joined by James Madison quarterback Todd Centeio, current Sun Belt Player of the Week, by the way. Todd, thank you for being here, man. Obviously, everybody is coming to realize how good of a football team you have. So let's just start with a pretty general. What's this season been like? Your first season from FCS to FBS for this program, and you find yourselves ranked in the AP poll. What's that like?
It's crazy to think, but we always, I transferred in and, I immediately felt the winning culture here. So it was kind of like a expectation that we already kind of had, knowing that we could, we had that winning culture set in place, and we have enough talented players at a lot of positions, most positions. So we felt like we can really make some noise, and our expectations and our dreams are kind of transpiring now, and it's a blessing, and we're going to keep working and not ever feel satisfied.
So you just referenced it, but for those that maybe aren't aware of your football history here, they probably should be by now, because the numbers you're putting up are impressive as hell, first of all. But 2, you have now played for 3 programs, from Temple to Colorado State. Now, obviously, James Madison. Yeah. What makes this group different? You spoke to seeing the talent and sort of feeling that up close when you first joined the team, but obviously the success you guys are having. What's special about this group compared to maybe other groups that you've been around in your time in college football?
Well, so at Temple, I believe that we kind of had a winning culture for the years I was there. We went to 3 straight bowl games, and I know what needs to be done in order to have that type of team. And at CSU, Coach Dazio only had really a year really to try to put in place a winning culture. And so we were still trying to work through all those kinks. We had a young team as well there at CSU. We had transfers, but we also had a young team. And then coming here, I immediately could sense the urgency and the wanting to be great. In the summertime, you'd see a bunch of different players going out there getting extra work after working out and all that kind of stuff, and that that's good things to see, because I saw that back when I was at Temple, and I kind of could assume that we would be successful.
So the Sun Belt this season has had its share of national notoriety games at this point. I think as a whole, the conference has sort of put its stamp on the map as 1, a fun brand of football, but 2, a conference you don't necessarily want to go up against. If you're a Power 5 type school that has hopes of running the table, you don't necessarily want to schedule against the Sun Belt. Do you guys as a team, do you take pride in that? Do you pay attention to what other teams in the Sun Belt are doing and sort of, I don't want to say pull for each other, because obviously you've got your rivals in there, but are you sort of excited to see that the Sun Belt is making its presence felt in college football?
I don't really think we really focus in on that. We kind of just, deal with what's on our plates and trying to deal with that and execute with whatever we have going on. But we have a lot of great teams in the Sun Belt, and a lot of Sun Belt teams have great wins this year, and kudos to them, and I hope their success keeps going on, and until they meet us.
That was quarterback Todd Centeio of the undefeated James Madison football team, now ranked nationally. The Dukes now ranked nationally. Felder, tell me something that I need to know about JMU.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this. As someone from North Carolina, I didn't think they were going to get past Appalachian State. They got the job done on the rock. The same team that beat Texas A&M, they beat them. So I really love what JMU's doing. They got Southern coming up. They've got Marshall coming up. Marshall, obviously, another new add to the Sun Belt, which is going to be really interesting as a team that plays pretty stout defense from a Marshall's perspective. Old Dominion, another team added to the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt, to me, Sun Belt, Fun Belt. Coach Sumlin, I'm loving watching these guys play.
Yep, Sun Belt, Fun Belt. One word, one name, Kurt Signetti, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that he's seen it all, right? He's been at the highest level. He was at Pitt, NC State as a recruiting coordinator, but then he goes back to Elon, IUP, right? He's been a head coach at those levels. He understands how to grow a program, what the big time looks like. Heck, he was I think it was
Signetti's run deep, dog.
Yeah, he was on Nick's original staff at Alabama. So he's seen the highest level. He's come from, where a lower level with IUP, Elon. He knows what it looks like, and he's doing a hell of a job.
That's the James Madison Dukes, Illinois, and Syracuse, all making big waves. Fellas, lastly, Coach, which of those scenarios do you want to just touch on? We're in the 2-minute offense.
Either one, whatever you got.
Let's go from a hiring standpoint.
Okay.
Let's go. You know what? Let's go to those 5 schools. There's 5 current open jobs. Let's keep the fans with us. Georgia Tech, Colorado, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Arizona State. Most attractive job as a head coach is which one of those?
With the right guy, Georgia Tech.
Expand on it.
Atlanta. Downtown Atlanta, the best jobs in the country, as I've said before, are ACC jobs with SEC players, right? So that's where you get them right there. It depends on what the entrance is, right?
I
if
heard
you
that.
have the triple option and you can keep guys and you can get in a car and sign 20-some guys right there and be good enough to win in the ACC. So Georgia Tech, to me, right? So other guys, it depends on fit. But to me, that's one of the best jobs out there right now.
Felder, which one of those you as a head coach, you looking?
Listen, I'll be tight. I'm going Arizona State because I don't have to worry about the entrance there, baby. You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about academically?
Yeah, we getting you. You're coming in. If you can play, we can get you in. Let's go play some football. And let's make things happen.
The admissions director at Arizona State is rocking flip-flops for a reason.
Go
ahead, Coach.
But here's would you ever thought in your lifetime that between those 5 you wouldn't have said Nebraska in your life?
That's the craziest part. Yes.
No, that's the craziest part. Field of 12 on a Wednesday. Thank you for rolling with us. You could find us again at SiriusXM, powered proudly by BetRivers. Coach Kevin Sumlin, the man Michael Felder, new on the East Coast. I'm George Whitfield. Thanks for rolling.